Question: why is America called the land of the free? Answer: because they never paid the original inhabitants for it. These tongue-in-cheek questions are throughout the book, and usually connect to part of the writings that Jim Northrup offers. One of the things that I've brought forward here is his commitment as a veteran to veteran rights and the issues that face veterans when they return to country. The YouTube video that I posted up here was from Green Bay, Wisconsin, LZ, where he spoke to the large crowd about and shared his poem. And I think obviously it was deeply personal, his connection there, in terms of how his brother suffered after returning from the war. And I imagine as he and his family suffered. One of the things that I want to read right now is an excerpt from the book where he travels to a war memorial or dedication in and around Duluth. And he talks about, rather critically, the absence of Native American or Anishinaabe presence in this memorial. So I'm going to read. FDL Follies motored to Duluth for the dedication of the Northland Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I was curious to see if Anishinaabe were represented at the ceremony. I could see the white is in all caps, monument as I approached the proceedings. There were approximately 1,000 people there for the doings. Most of the participants were white, again in all caps, although there were a couple of brown faces sprinkled around. It was a typical white guy ceremony. There were prayers, guitars, and a flyover by the jets from the Duluth Air Base. 2 Huey choppers went by at the end of the doings. The huge white concrete structure was built by volunteers from the veteran and construction community. The white monument is in the shape of a half shell. There were openings in the bunker-like monument that overlooked Lake Superior. The names of those who were killed or didn't return from the Vietnam War were etched on a black wall. There were a lot of flags and honor guards wearing white shirts, standing on white concrete sidewalks. White seagulls surrounded the crowd. Big puffy white clouds drifted over the ceremony. We saw 2 white people keel over from the heat, or maybe from the emotion of the moment. They were assisted by white soldiers from the National Guard. Former Mayor John Fado made some remarks as part of the doings. I don't think he is a veteran. Anishinaabe people were ignored in the white guy ceremony. I thought it was real white of them to forget our contributions. The Duluth television stations reported that the monument was vandalized sometime after the ceremony. We fought the war together, but live in peace separately. It's that line that sticks with me about fighting the war together, but living in peace separately, that I think is pretty powerful. His writings capture, I think, somebody who is on the outside, who isn't fully accepted, yet has served and done his time. I think his advocacy is clear, and also the truth that he speaks is pretty incredible. I think from the YouTube video that I attached here, where he shared his poem, I think it speaks to a gentleman who, in his life, is able to speak truth to power and acknowledge the contributions and the brotherhood that I imagine he must have felt as a veteran, but also the complexity, the social complexity that still remains, as well as the dissatisfaction with the federal government. And either it's the treatment of the Indians or it's the treatment of the veterans returning home, that whatever commitments or understanding or social contract that was created seems to be repeatedly violated, whether it's a treaty or an understanding that when veterans return home, that all resources and support should have followed them. So as a Native American or Anishinaabe returning from Vietnam, I imagine the isolation was double that of others who returned at that time. So I find his writings around his experience in Vietnam and his loss and the other elements that seem to shape this man as both intriguing and rather sad at times.